So, I've successfully managed to turn my satellite around so that it's facing retrograde, thus giving my solar panels the best chance of catching as much sunlight as they can as we approach the moon. Fortunately, I shouldn't have to make any more course corrections, so the satellite is basically dead. I don't need to do anything else with it other than hope that I hit my target. So here we go. We have about 11 hours, so we're just going to go ahead and warp. As you can see, because I'm warping, my batteries have recharged just a little bit. Not enough to make a difference, but some. Whoa! And hey look! We are flying by the moon. So again, I don't have enough electric charge to really warrant anything other than maybe a hi, how are you? And some telemetry, and I sent some of that back. I don't know if I got all of it. I don't even know if I got any of it. But it's there. We're good. And we have successfully flown by the moon. So we're going to go ahead and go out of lunar orbit. Like I said, I'm not even going to try and put this in anything because our contract specifically states to escape to a solar orbit. We are, however, going to get a nice shot of the far side of the moon here. Isn't that just beautiful? Look at that. And there is Earth and the Sun way over there. Beautiful shot of the Milky Way galaxy. And we're going to warp to complete this contract. And there goes our connection yet again. And, you know, it's really not that big a deal. Flying by the moon is a very good first step. You know, it's nice knowing you can. Obviously, you know, some of the problems I've had, lack of electric charge, I've had, you know, control issues, satellite balance issues. I mean, this thing has just been plagued with issue after issue after issue. The good news is, none of them have really been a problem. Like, I can say with almost absolute certainty that every problem that I've come across with this satellite can be solved. So the main reason I'm slowing down prior to the SOI change is so that weird things don't happen. There have historically been a lot of bugs with changing spheres of influence, going from one sphere to another. And there we go. We have completed our contract. We're now on a solar escape trajectory. As you can see, I've picked up another couple of contracts here. So while we're here, we're going to hop over to one of my other satellites. Let's zoom out here. ComSat 3 will work. And do this science experiment. So the way the return science from orbit contracts work is literally all you have to do is perform a science experiment and then return that data. That's it. It's not hard. let's there we go, get us some electric charge here. So we're going to do a telemetry experiment, and we're just going to transmit it, and there we go, that contract is done. We do have one other contract to complete, and it's to test the Poodle engine at the launch site, or landed on Earth. Either one works. But before we do that, I'm going to head to Mission Control and see if they have any other contracts for us. Luna 2, I have to impact the moon. So I can do that one. And also science data from space around the moon. I can do that one too. Because I have a rocket and a launch vehicle that I know can get me there. All I gotta do is hit the moon. I've also have enough science to unlock another tech node. And I'm going to go with... basic science would get me, looks like, a better fixed solar panel. I could do flight control, which would get me... Ooh. I'm going to do flight control, because that will get me the ever-important Reflectron DP10, which is a really good launch antenna. So, we're going to go to the vehicle assembly building, and we're going to fix our moon rocket. So the biggest issue we had with our payload was it was unbalanced. That's easily fixed. We're going to go ahead and load it up. There we go. And we're going to work inside this fairing here. And we're going to take this off, put it right back on, because that removes the accidental duplicate on this other side. And those antenna are approximately the same weight. One is 0.05, the other one is 0.02. But something else I'm going to do is I'm going to add I could add that, but I don't really want to. Could do these, sort of. Don't really want to do that either. So, I'm going to remove this and check engines. Okay, so it looks like I've removed all of the excess torque I was generating. I'm actually going to redesign the satellite just a little bit. So that I can generate more power. There are those. I need this to go there. Only going to use one of them, but I need two for balance. One there. There we go. Okay. So there's our new lunar payload. I'm going to call this Luna 2. Oops. Luna 2. And I'm going to attach my booster here. Fix my fairing. Fairings are very important. There we go. Save it. And I'm also going to create a subassembly out of this booster. I'm going to call it medium lifter. There we go, there's that. So I also need to do this part test the Poodle service engine at the launch site. So I go to my engines and I'm going to look for, actually I'm just going to search for the Poodle. Seems to be a rather large engine, but that's okay. And I need some sort of structural element to attach it to. There we go. Put it in its own stage. And hopefully I have enough power generation to actually power the things that need powered. I am, however, also going to add a couple batteries to the bottom, or to my spacecraft. I'm going to recess them just a little bit. So they don't look too terribly out of place. There we go. Okay. Let's check our delta V and see what we got here. Launch thrust of 1.23. That's good. Alright. So we're going to save this and we're going to go ahead and build it. Now, something else I'm going to do is I'm going to build our first Kerbal rocket. So, we have our command pod, we have our parachute, because, you know, command pods always need parachutes. We need, where is it? No, it's not there. Parachutes. Ah, here we go. The nose cone. And what I'm making is a replica of the Mercury capsule. This was the capsule used to carry the first Americans into space. It was... The specific rocket I'm building is the Mercury Redstone. That rocket was never specifically designed to make orbit. However, it was designed to go suborbital. So, all that happened was the rocket went up, and it came back down. Now, of course, because this is a Kerbal launch, we are going to have a launch escape system, and I'm going to set up an action group. It's the abort action group. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate that engine. Speaking of engines, I still need the retro rockets and the decoupler. There we go. And nope, not that one. I need my Mercury Redstone launcher. Except I'm going to remove my upper stage and just have the first stage. And this is the first rocket to carry a man into space. It's the Mercury Redstone 3. I need a Kerbal. So I'm going to put Jebediah Kerman in the cockpit. He's got nerves of steel. He's our man. I need to adjust my staging a little bit here, because I did add that lower stage. Make sure my staging is correct. It's not, actually. So here we go. Adjust my staging. Then my other abort action group is going to decouple my capsule, and I'm going to shut down my Mercury Redstone engine. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to build it. So I'd like to do, and this Kerbal launch is simply for me. I don't have a contract for it. I don't have any real reason to do it other than I want to. So we're actually going to make that first so it completes, and we'll go ahead and warp past flight control. So Alan Shepard was the pilot of the Mercury Redstone 3. It was also known as the Freedom 7. And this was the first American rocket carrying a human to actually reach space. Launched May 5th in 1961 at about 2:30 in the afternoon. So I'm not going to necessarily replicate the launch time, but what I like to do is replicate the launch events. So go ahead and launch that rocket with Jebediah Kerman in the pilot seat. So here we go. Go ahead and turn the lights on, because lights are very important when you're in a spacecraft. And launching in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of Mercury Redstone 3. So, 16 seconds after liftoff, we begin our pitch program. Again, we're pitching to 090. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, T plus 16. We're going to pitch over. Now, the actual pitch rate was about 2 degrees a second. From 90 down to 45 degrees, reaching 45 degrees at 40 seconds into the flight. I'm probably going to be a little early or a little late, simply because I'm having to fly this rocket manually. I also instituted a little bit of a roll there, and that was mainly for my own personal satisfaction. I'm unsure exactly which direction Mr. Shepard was facing as he ascended. I don't know if he was heads up or heads down. Heads down would make the most sense, because that's the way the shuttle ascends. The astronauts roll into a heads down position so that all the blood is not rushing to their heads, it is instead rushing to their feet. So here we go, we're ascending at 45-ish degrees. Minute 24 seconds into the flight, we reach max Q, which is the maximum dynamic pressure on the rocket. Prior to this point, pressure on the nose of the rocket has been increasing. After this point, it begins decreasing again as the atmosphere thins. So I don't believe we're going to make the 2 minute and 20 second cutoff. 2 minutes 20 seconds into the flight, the Redstone engine shuts down and we go into a coast phase. As you can see, we've already escaped the atmosphere, but again, we don't have enough delta V to make orbit. We could try, we really could, but it's just not going to happen. So we are at 2 minutes booster cutoff, just fine. I am, however, going to wait until 2 minutes and 22 seconds to jettison the escape tower, which is the exact time in the Freedom 7 flight where they would jettison the tower, which occurred 2 seconds after the booster cutoff. And then 2 seconds after that, the booster was jettisoned. At 2 minutes 35 seconds, we had what's called the turnaround maneuver. Basically, this puts the spacecraft into a retrograde orbit, or retrograde orientation, so that the retro rockets can fire. At 5 minutes, we reach apoapsis. That's a little bit longer than ours. So, at this point, Shepard would have reached apoapsis. Unfortunately, Jeb has not yet, but that's fine. 15 seconds after apogee, the 3 retro rockets were fired for 10 seconds each and started at 5-second intervals with overlaps. So what this does is it slows the capsule down so that we hit the atmosphere, it doesn't burn up. Oh dear, I need to swap those. There we go. So we still have about a minute and a half. Okay, so we've just hit apoapsis. I'm going to pitch to negative 35 degrees, fire our retro rockets. And then, now, on the Friendship 7, there was a anomaly with a limit switch on the heat shield. And basically what had happened was that limit switch had become damaged during launch, and it indicated that the heat shield was loose. So, in order to maintain the integrity of the heat shield, they left their boosters attached so that they would take the brunt of re-entry and burn away, leaving the heat shield mostly attached. Fortunately, it was discovered that this was only a problem with the limit switch, and Mr. Shepard was not in any danger at all. But it's a nice precaution. So I'm pitching to orientation of 35 degrees. This occurred approximately 6 minutes and 20 seconds into the flight. And then at 7 minutes and 15 seconds, the spacecraft began to roll at 10 degrees a second to stabilize it during re-entry. So I'm going to go ahead and come down. Here we go. We're at atmospheric interface. And we're going to go ahead and roll the spacecraft. I am going to do a crew report. Probably should have done that while I was actually in space, but I forgot. But don't worry, there will be many more manned missions after this. So we're going to go ahead and toggle this. We want to deploy at 3 kilometers. As you can see, we're coming down very hot, very fast, undergoing lots of deceleration. Going to pop our aerodynamic cap and arm our parachute. And as you can see, our engines are still attached because this is a very rough simulation. Normally those would have burned away, so I'm going to go ahead and jettison them. There they go. We're at 4 kilometers altitude. 13 minutes into the flight, so at this point the actual Mercury capsule would have been about 2 minutes from splashdown. Splashdown occurred 15 minutes and 22 seconds into the flight. Here we have our parachute deployed in a reefed condition, also known as semi-deployed. Going to go ahead and warp. There it goes, unfurling to slow our capsule to 3.1 meters per second. Again, it does not look like we're going to match this timeline very closely at all. But you know what? That's okay. Coming down ever so slowly. We are 300 meters from the surface. Falling like a leaf on the wind. Jeb down there is having just a good old time. Nothing seems to faze him at all, ever. So, 20 meters. 10 meters, splashdown. There we go. So there you have a rather horrid recreation of the Mercury Redstone 3 Friendship 7 flight. Thank you for joining me. I'm Taki117, and remember, it's only rocket science.